Hello, I'm Andrew Jack, Global Education Editor at the Financial Times. And it's a pleasure to be here today as part of the NAMLI Media Literacy Showcase to talk to you about access online for free for high schools, for teachers and students around the world. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the background to the program, how it works, and what could be useful in teaching and learning. So let's talk a little bit about the FTs as a newspaper, first of all, a media organization. And as you can see here from our homepage, the FT, of course, writes about finance, but also not only business and economics, but politics, international relations, and even cultural issues around the world, technology, healthcare, a full range of issues that are relevant to our readership. And who is that readership? It's decision makers in business, in government, in non-profit organizations, people who need high quality journalism, evidence-based, regardless of what their personal opinions might be, in order to make decisions about how to operate. And you can see the FT, which was historically a newspaper, is now a multimedia organization. So you can get from it not only text content, but as you see here, videos, podcasts, multimedia, games, charts, and other sorts of data, as well as email newsletters. So a full variety of different contexts that might engage students and teachers in different ways. Here's an example recently about the role of AI in education. And as you can see alongside our analysis that talked about trends and concerns, including about cognitive offloading or students decreasingly engaging their own brains while they engage with AI, you can see very rich analysis that accompanies the trends and could be useful in reading and learning. Let me talk just a little bit about the importance of quality to the FT, which is the thing that really drove me to join and has kept me as a journalist over many years at the FT. Because of course, unlike social media platforms and many other forms of recent sources that students are using, traditional journalism has a very deeply embedded set of quality controls and checks. So you can see here an article I wrote quite recently on disinformation. But you see here in the middle our own editorial systems internally. So each word, each phrase, each name, each fact gets highlighted in green for verification. And you can see from the list on the right a series of different editors and sub-editors who go through, who fact check, who query, who come back to me to check and compare and analyze. So anything that you see in the FT will have gone through multiple pairs of eyes before it gets broadcast or published. And let's talk about three areas where FT schools could be particularly relevant. So the first is those values around global awareness, media literacy, critical thinking that are so important for students. So you can see on the left here, many articles from around the world, on Israel, on the US, on France, on Bangladesh, for example. In the middle, you can see some of our tools, including a weekly news quiz that we do that students can take part in to test their understanding and knowledge. And on the right, a series that we're expanding at the moment of explainers. So to look at the story, the history, the context, the deeper explanations behind issues that are in the news at the moment. The second area we think FT schools is valuable is thinking about life beyond school, whether that's continuing in their education or going directly into the world of work. So we have a whole section, as you see here on the left, about work and careers. We have on the top right there some of our data and rankings, for example, around master's courses, masters in management, MBAs, masters in finance, looking at the outcomes for students of going to different schools for different courses. And then bottom right, just an example in the healthcare sector, like so many of the other sectors that we follow, students who might be interested in a particular type of career can read recent coverage on companies, on policies, on debates in a particular area. And therefore, when they're interested in researching a career, when they're perhaps applying for a job or for work experience, when someone is coming in for a talk, they can be informed about the topical issues that are taking place in that sector or with that employer, which strengthens their chance perhaps to engage and stand out and potentially be ultimately hired. And the third area of FT Schools is around curriculum enrichment. So while most of our content, which is all freely available, applies to all readers, we've also developed some resources specifically for high schools. So you can see here on the left, we work with a number of teachers in different subject areas, including economics, politics, geography, philosophy, psychology, as the experts in the classroom to identify recent FT articles of interest and then add questions around them. You can see here in the middle a series of simulations and games that students can use to help in their learning. And on the right, a reminder of our weekly email newsletter that goes out, selecting a series of articles that could be relevant in their studies, as well as highlighting other initiatives and resources that could be useful to them. Here's just one example, looking at in high school economics courses. On the left, you see a menu of some of the main terms and themes that they'll be studying. And if you click on any of those links, you see, for example, here, an example of a teacher pick, where they've highlighted an article to illustrate basic economic context and added some questions. And then on the right, you see the underlying original FT article about sick pay and how it should be analysed and considered. And a final area where our schools program offers some special initiatives for students. We have a program offering virtual mentoring online. We're currently open to submissions, recommendations by teachers for their most promising and relevant students. And we also run a series of competitions. You can see an example on the right. So we will organize with different organizations, we will judge, and we'll publish the best of those student essays and blogs, in this case around social media and democracy. So a great way for students to gain recognition through the FT that could be useful, and at the same time, really useful insights from the next generation for our more classic readers. And finally, the FT runs a series of special reports or series of articles around different themes. You can see most recently, a few weeks ago, we published one on mastering money, all about guidance for high school students about savings, investment, insurance, budgeting, and so on. We've done them on navigating the digital world, on AI, for careers, for climate change, as well as some wider resources around preparation for work, around interpreting graphs, and also a resource to encourage students to identify and flag up for their own peers other FT articles that could be useful that we then publish and share. So that's the core of FT for schools. You can, by downloading this QR code or using the web link, ft.com/schools, are free. Teachers or staff members can register to sign up, and then they'll receive a link that any student can also use to create an FT account and use the FT anywhere. So as I say, in this world where increasingly there's concern about disinformation and excessive information, we hope to be able to contribute by providing high quality global journalism to give insights, to develop critical thinking and global awareness, to help enrich studies and put students on a path towards a more successful future. So thanks very much for listening, and best of luck in your efforts to encourage and support this next generation.